Hi, welcome to Design It with Tammie Gibbs. I'm Tammie, and today we're going to be talking about all things cottagecore and creating them with AI. And this is a very popular trend or theme in design. You almost would call it its own style, even though there are different style elements you can apply to cottagecore. And recently I did put out a AI artist playbook, Cottagecore edition. And so I will be referring to it to get some of the prompt for our prompt demonstrations, the not prompts necessarily, but to show you the types of phrasing and the phrasing banks, the descriptors, all those sort of things, all the little ingredients that are included inside the Cottagecore playbook. But of course, as I say with all of my things, you don't have to have my playbook. You just have to kind of know how to put things together and the directions. The playbooks were designed just to make that process a little bit easier so that you are not having to do the type of research and the level of research that I do to sort of highlight these particular phrases and know what to ask for. It's kind of like AI is one of those tools that if you don't know what to ask for, you're probably not going to get the results that you want. In your mind, you may see it, but if you don't have the words, then you're not going to be able to do it. So we're going to jump right in, and I'm going to go, I'm in Artistly because that's just what I typically use. I use Artistly, I use ChatGPT sometimes. I don't use Canva a lot with their AI because I just have found that they change my prompts a lot and it's just a little iffy. So my go-to is Artistly. I would say 95% of my images I create with Artistly. I'm developing into some other AIs mainly for a source of backup, and a way for me to expand. So I want to be a little bit more familiar with some of the other platforms, even though AI, Artistly, for my AI is, like I said, the one that I've learned, I've studied, I've, trained people on. But if Artistly were to go down, I also don't want to limit myself to not be able to work within other systems. And since most of the people are using my playbooks and other systems, I know they work there. So anyway, so we're going to be working inside Artistly just for demonstration purposes. And so Artistly is a one-time payment. I paid for it like 3 years ago, I think it was. It was in fall of 23, I think. And so it's definitely been a good investment for me. There are so many different things. They keep updating it very regularly and expanding what it's capable of doing. But just like any platform, it has its own little quirks, I guess you could say. So to create Cottagecore, what is Cottagecore? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and let me just move this out of the way. Sorry about that. We're going to, if I can get that exit here. This is a new recording system I've got here. Okay, so we're going to look through exactly what, I'm just going to do a Google search. And we're going to search for Cottagecore. Now, the playbook itself is going to show you lots and lots of examples. So I'm just going to go into the images so that you get a sense for what Cottagecore is. Now, the playbook does go into a lot of detail on what Cottagecore is and the different types of Cottagecore because there's more than one Cottagecore aesthetic. You've got different ones that are going to change the direction. Now this, because I didn't do let's just do Cottagecore clip art and see. Okay, so this is going to give you a general idea of the different types of looks, and you're going to notice there is a lot of difference between the actual style variations of Cottagecore. So Cottagecore in and of itself is more about the objects that you're doing as well as certain treatments of those objects. And you can see that some are a little bit more watercolory looking, some are have a different, sort of texture. That one's really pretty. How cute is that? Kudos to Blessing Handmaids. That is adorable. Very cottagecore, and then your frog is precious. So, so this is just sort of an overview of how you can see that different people treat cottagecore. This is, of course, more botanically looking, and it's more watercolor for cottagecore. So cottagecore is not one thing. It is a series of motifs, and the playbook covers all those motifs that you can pull in to create your packs or your products within that cottagecore. And you can see here that, you have a little bit more elegant and Victorian looking cottagecore. So these things all qualify. So now we're going to go back into Artistly, and I'm going to show you inside Artistly specific. Now this is going to be different for your other platforms, but just as a little tip for people inside Artistly, I'm going to show you a couple of different of the individual generators inside Artistly that I have used to create various different renders, different looks, okay? So, for instance, this one was created using the unique dreamy style, so that's a good one to put in your toolbox for your for doing your cottagecore. And then we're going to go down here, and this one is using watercolor inspired digital design. Those two gave some really good results. However, the unique dreamy style actually, with this particular prompt, gave me almost a semi-realistic watercolor version. So, just with any of the generators, that sometimes you can hit one that's going to swap the whole look. But that's okay too. Okay, so then we can go down here and we can see that you can both, and complexities are really important in cottagecore as well. For some items, having, a little bit of background here, and even, let me just show you here. So this one is where I removed the background of one of those images. Some are going to be harder to remove based on the type of wash that you include in your prompting. But then you can also get some really good clip art type images that are smoother. You just have to prompt for that. You have to include clip art in there, or isolate it against a white background, or some sort of qualifier to get a smoother image. Now, if you're this is a little troubleshooting thing. If you're having trouble with it rendering specifically the washes in the back, be sure and examine how you conducted your particular prompt. For instance, this one has delicate brush washes. We can attempt to, let me go in so I can try to play with it and show you what I'm talking about. Let's do regenerate, and then we're going to look at the prompt, and we're going to start subtracting things away that may be, we can do delicate brush but then remove the washes. And if it takes away too much, then we have to add it back in somewhere. But let's just see. I think that's probably it. But sometimes to troubleshoot, you just need to look at, sometimes washes put in there, even though they do help with the description of the paint strokes. Okay, so that did not remove it. So let's look for what else is there. I already know what it is, but I want you to look and see. So you see where it says cream background here? That's another thing that may be adding in that little circular item. So we're going to take and remove it. And then the third way that you can troubleshoot your images, see, that did it. That did away with it. And now we have a clean image that we should be able to go in and remove the background on. And while I'm inside Pixel Cut, let me just state something obvious, and I don't have my I don't have my Pro version on. I will be doing it and renewing it later today, but one thing I want to say is that I've used Pixel Cut for this is my 3rd year now, and so here it removed the background on this just while I'm talking, and there we've got a really clean image. Okay, Pixel Cut is still one of the better background removers. I still have difficulty with some on Artistly. The backgrounds of really complicated images like this just don't remove really well. So I tend not to use it for that. I do use Artistly's upscaler a lot of times. It seems to be pretty good, and you can convert to 300 dpi all in one sweep. So there's that. And then as far as, these images that often are going to come with a little busier backgrounds, you're either going to have to prompt for you to remove that from the equation, or either you're going to have to have a really, really good background remover. Pixel Cut has literally almost doubled in the price. Originally I was paying around $50-something, and then I believe the company may have gotten bought out. And so I finished out, and renewal was supposed to happen in May. They didn't automatically do that, and because I was busy with some playbooks and other stuff, I wasn't using the background. I wasn't using the tools that much, so I didn't really notice that they had not removed it, so they had degraded me down to the free version. The problem with the free version now is, and let me just show you, I kept it. I didn't renew on purpose so that I could show you this. Before, I don't believe they had these same types of limits because I don't remember them. Now you have a download limit per day. I'm not even sure how many downloads it is. So like it's once you reach that, then you have to either upgrade or wait till the next day to actually download your creations. And the problem with that is that most of the time it actually doesn't save them in there. So if you've already done the like a whole batch or whatever, you'd have to redo it again. And then they also have limits on that part of it as well. So anyway, I will be upgrading. It's going to cost me around $100 a year, I believe now. I think it'll be worth it in the long run for me. I did research just so I could tell you if there were some other plans but I like to do bulk things, and I still believe that the Pro version of Pixel Cut probably is still worth it. I do still have a link in my description for my affiliate for Pixel Cut. Use it or not, you help me when you do. It doesn't cost you any more to use it. But anyway, so I did want to point out these changes from past experiences with Pixel Cut. But anyway, it is still a good program. And you see that it does really good on the busier backgrounds. Now, if everybody always asks, well, what about the ones that I can't get it? I don't waste time with a lot of those. I mean, literally it would have to be for personal use and something that I just had to have it perfect, and that I wanted to spend that kind of time to go in and minutely remove excess that an automatic background remover is not going to remove. I'm not willing to commit that amount of time to it. If you're doing more specific, like single images, like for wall art and stuff like that, it may be worth it for you to do it. But for me, I just want a really good upscaler and background remover so to move things along. So we're going to go back in here now. Okay, so let's look at the playbook. Okay, so we're going to go to, I'm going to show you what it looks like. Let's move this out of the way. Okay. And so this is what the cover looks like. And then, of course, we have multiple pages of contents. And let me see if I can show you. So the table of contents is set up so that you can basically, you can jump from part to part. So this is the foundation. This is where it talks all about what the Cottagecore theme is, all that sort of thing. And then if we go back, you know, what it explains what cottagecore is, the emotional pull, a lot of the things that make it more difficult for sometimes us to create products is if we don't fully understand the buyer and the emotional connection between our product, our clip art, our journals, our planners, our invitations. We need to understand that emotional pull and what it is for what we're selling. If we understand that, then we can deliver the product that the people we want to sell to want to buy. Okay, so part 1 is foundations. Part 2 is Cottagecore sub-theme directories. So basically there are a lot of I mentioned that earlier, sub-themes. So you've got garden, strawberry, cozy kitchen, woodland, romantic, farmhouse, meadow, vintage, whimsical, seasonal, and of course I do a strategic takeaway at the end that kind of pulls it all together. And then even inside these different sub-themes, there's also other little breakdowns that you can do within them. So that's part 2. Part 3 is all about surface material and detail, you know, textures, materials, tactile touches. So you've got fabric and textile textures, and let me just show you, like for gingham, it's going to have, you know, use it when you want to create these moods or feel. Then it's going to give you the visual direction phrasing, so you can basically, let's say faded red gingham cloth, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to go back over here, and let's just add that element into here. Let's see if we can add it to, this one. Let's see where we want to put it. Tea table, antique cream lace. Nice. And then we're going to put over and we're going to say faded red gingham tablecloth. And let's just see what that does. Cottagecore is very much about the little details. There we go. See how amazing that turned out? How cute is that? Now, what we can also do, since we have pink flowers there, we've got dusty rose blooms. We can go in and change that to dusty red blooms, so that then we have a aesthetic that matches. Okay, so that changed them up just a little bit. And we could also, with tiny, and then we could change red, and then we could do wild flower blooms. So this is how we tweak our prompts to get what we're looking for. So now that's added in some wildflowers rather than, we still have our dusty. We have 2 chairs now. We weren't specific about that, but so that's fine, and that created a unique image. We could regenerate this, and we could eliminate the blooms altogether. Tea table. Just remove the blooms and see what that does. Now sometimes Artistly does some, like this has got the faded green leaves. We want to remove that. Okay. Let's just see what we get. So prompting is as much about what you take away as what you add to a prompt. Okay, so this actually did still put that in there, I guess because of the cottagecore look. But anyway, what you can do if Artistly is overriding, okay, vintage rose. Okay, let's take out rose and put vintage cottage tea table and see if it takes away that. And then I'm going to show you another little trick for Artistly specific that if you're having trouble with removing an item that you want to remove. Okay, so we removed the things, but since it thinks it should have some blooms, let's see if there's, I don't see any references down here to that. I don't see anything to that. So if we wanted to remove it, this is another little drop dead kind of tip for Artistly. Sometimes Artistly, okay, you can use the magic wand and say keep everything in the prompt the same except eliminate any floral or vase elements. So that way that'll let it hopefully talk to itself and maybe remove that vase. So that's just, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm just kind of throwing it out there as a, you know, well, still doing it, still put those flowers on it. So and I don't see anything in there that tells it to do it, so it's basically reading it into it. So you have the option of taking it out with the human stylizer if you don't want that, or let's try this. Let's try changing the order. Okay, and let's put soft watercolor style. Let's put all this in the beginning and see what it does. It just thinks a tea table needs flowers, which I guess it kind of does, but okay. Well, that actually worked out very good, though. I kind of like the image. So you can swap things around, and I can't seem to get that particular one to work without the florals. So let's go now to a different, that one was using this style. Let's try this one with it and show you what it comes up with. Because sometimes it's the individual generator that has trouble with refined prompts. Okay, so this one's going to do the same thing. Still going to put the floral there. And I really like this version better. So we're going to try it also in the Steampunk Journal. There we go. Alright, so Steampunk Journal actually did remove, it put a candle there, and there might be a little tiny flower here, but it did for the most part remove the other, but we still have our lace, and then our table cover with all of that was right. So you just have to play around with that part of it. But as far as getting what we wanted, as far as adding in these gingham elements, now let's see if we can go to, we're going to go back, oops, sorry, let me get it back on here. I hit the wrong button. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go back to here, and like I said, that's part 3 is all about fabric. Now let's look at natural textures. So let's look at weathered wood. Okay, so weathered wood is going to be good for so many different things. Farmhouse wood table, rough wooden crate detail. So we're going to add that in. Let's see how we can make that fit one of our things. Let's add it to here. Okay. We're going to add rough wooden crate. detail. Just that simple phrase. And then once we get the main image, we'll know how we need to tweak the direction. There we go. Okay, so that is cool. I like that we ended up, instead of a regular basket, we ended up with the little crate. We can be more specific with it, and we can take this instead. And let's see, we've got it actually, the soft brown wicker. See, it really doesn't, let's say basket. Sitting on the crate. Okay. So we should get the texture, and then hopefully we'll get the wicker basket sitting on top of the crate this time. There we go. So then we have the basket and the crate and the florals, and we also have an element that, because we've got the clip art in there, we should be able to go back and get a fairly clean image. Let's see if it takes most of that out. It did. Show it against the black background. About like that. Okay, so let's go back through. Wooden textures, I mean, being weathered, you know, here's a little example and we'll try it. We've got a watering can with flowers. Let's just try this simple. The book is full of these little prompt examples, which are like little exercises that you can do. Now, depending on what you're using, you may actually get something that looks very similar if you're using the same prompts inside the same generators. They are beginning to look alike, and you know me, I don't like that. So you'll have to tweak them once you get your foundational prompt. Then you'll want to change it to you. So now we have just this little can, and then we're going to go back in, and then we're going to add that it's sitting show you the progression. Now, once you see some of these samples, then you can go back in, you can change the color out, you can change the style out. You can change the order, because a lot of times I change the order of the styles so that I'm not, so now we have it sitting on a wooden garden bench. So cute. Okay, now we're going to look at it again, and it's going to say, you know, the weathered wood makes the watering can feel rooted in a real garden setting. So let's go back here and let's see though, because this, if we can get what sort of look we can get here, because we don't have the clip art added to it. But let's look. Okay. See, that is the problem a lot of times, is when you get that. Now, this element, we could isolate this, and we could actually refine this and remove all of this, and we still have a really cool image that we could use in our pack. Okay, so that's really good. Use my last two downloads, but that was cute, and I don't want to lose it. Okay, so what we can do is we can go back into this then, and we can try to add here to beginning. We're experimenting, because, you know, I do things on the fly, so some things work, some things don't, and then isolated. White background. Now, if you're doing something with a lot of white in it, don't use white background. Use like black or something that is going to isolate easily from the back, and that is also a little tip that you can use. Okay, so we're going to see if we can get more of a clip art image, because some people are doing clip art, some people are doing tags and things. Now for a tag, this image would be perfectly fine. Okay, now we have a bench that should remove cleaner. So you're going to probably in your packs, you may be doing a little bit of both. So we're going to go over here and we're going to try this one. And this one should give you that cleaner image for clip art. See how cute? Very, very cute. Okay. All right. So this Cottagecore playbook is full of these little exercises that give you, a simple subject, how you can take, and how adding different things. So like, for instance, if we wanted to add the faded painted wood here, we'd go back in, and where it says sitting on a weathered, we can put faded painted wooden garden bench. Painted, and then we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully it gives it weathered paint look rather than the natural wood. Okay, well, we didn't specify a color, so now we're going to go, that is still a really cute image. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go in and we're going to pick out a color, let's say sage. Faded sage. Painted wooden garden bench. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to move this. Okay. We're gonna have to put the priority towards the beginning. And then there's another way that you can sometimes, okay, so this is not accepting the, or if it is, it's a really light color. So let's do this. Still really cute images. Okay, so one of the things you can do is at the bottom, you can say the bench is painted blue. We're just gonna wood is overriding it. So we're going through troubleshooting as we go along. Okay. And it is still not doing that. Okay. So. All right. Faded, weathered, faded sage paint. Okay. Wood. Uh-oh. No wonder all this has gotten scrambled. Let me go back to the beginning here. Okay. Let's go back. I've scrambled it up too much. Okay. Let's go back to the original one. And then instead of weathered, let's just use on a painted wood garden bench. Let's see what that does. Sometimes it's better to go back to your initial image and make certain changes. Okay, so faded painted. Okay, that could be faded and painted. We didn't designate a color. So, painted wood garden bench. Instead of painted, let's just do red. Now, your particular generator, if you're using Midjourney or one of the other ones, it may interpret these things as they are. There we go. Okay. We need to remove, for Artistly at least, we need to remove the word painted and just replace it with just the color. So that's just, that's a tip. Remove painted because Artistly does not know how to interpret the painted and the color. So like with this one now, I bet if we go back and we remove painted with painted teal. And these are the little things that you learn within your generator, how to use the phrasing with your generator. See, there we go. Now we're working. So now what I'm going to do is go back and apply it to one of these and just remove the word painted. Now I'm going to leave the weather just to see if that recognizes the color. Okay. It didn't. The weathered overpowers it in Artistly, so we take the weathered out and just use faded. And sage is kind of a weird, so we're going to say sage colored wooden garden bench. But as you can see how the little details change, how the colors impact your look. Okay, I need something better than sage. Sage is not a color that's, okay, so faded red. And we'll remove colored. See if we can get it on our clip art version. There we go. Now we have our red bench. Okay, so now we have it down. So instead of saying you want to not put weathered because it automatically does the weathered because of the Cottagecore. And then you would do the color rather than painted or any of those other qualifiers. So this is just specific to Artistly. It may or may not be that way inside yours, but as you can see. All right. So now we have an old garden fence texture. So let's see what that can add to our let's see if we can apply that to something interesting. Let's go back to the baskets here. And all we're going to do is just add that qualifier to the end and see what it comes up with. It may or may not put a little fence in there. The texture itself can be applied when you're wanting it to do a fence. It did. It added the fence texture in there. How cool is that? Now we have a really cute little piece of clip art. So, see how that works? Okay. I don't want to go too long with this. I just wanted to walk you through. Let me walk you through the rest of the playbook. I think that I've shown you inside Artistly some tips and tricks on how to use it and how to take our little ingredients, which are our phrasing and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go back here. Okay, so part 1, like I said, foundations, all about visual signals. Part 2, sub-themes. Let's go into the sub-themes real quick, and let's go into seasonal cottagecore. So this details, you know, the different types of seasons that you can add in and apply. Whoops. Sorry. Specific phrasing. So if you wanted to do cottage Christmas kitchen with gingerbread. Okay, we could take that. We could actually go back in and apply it to here. So let's just go into this one. And what we're going to do is look on how we can take and change this up. So we got a honeybee garden. Let's change that. And we're going to paste in the Christmas. We're going to take away the bees. We're going to leave the style of soft cut. Okay. All right, we're just gonna do it. I know I make things look very chaotic, but we're just gonna throw it in here. We get a test image. Okay, there we go. Now, if we wanted something specific, then we could say, okay, Cottagecore Christmas kitchen with gingerbread. A image. The image is of the windowsill decorated with garland and red bows. Now I still have a lot of the leftover colors, which is fine. You would tweak those to what you really wanted to accomplish, but I have just gotten my cute little cottage window, and if we were to go in, the only thing about scenes like this is sometimes Pixel Cut will remove the background pieces you really want, so you may want to try things like this in Canva and their background removal. Actually, this one did fine. Sometimes the background, you'll lose what's behind the window or whatever. And you could be more specific to say Christmas tree in the distance or whatever. You could say that you want the garland to be a garland of poinsettias and bows. I didn't tell it any of that. So, you know. So you can take and refine from there. So just another little hint. So the playbook does give you directions for that. We're going to go to the contents page. So part 3, like I said, dealing with all of your textures and textiles, which is really cool because it actually has home texture. So you've got your enamelware, which is really cool. I feel like I need to show you that. Let's do a chipped enamel picture. Let's say, let's do this one. And instead of we'll just do a Christmas kitchen with gingerbread, the images of the wooden table with and then we're going to put in our chipped enamel picture filled with Christmas florals. That chipped enamel, the enamel for Cottagecore is really, and anything sort of farmhousey. Look how cute that is. Now, this did not give me really my what I would consider Christmas florals. Oh, and I know why. Hang on. Because down here we have chamomile flowers, sage leaves, and chamomile flowers. We want to remove that because that was left over from the other thing. So that was overriding what we had. Okay. Let's try it again. There we go. Now we have a picture. It has more Christmassy look to it. Now did I remove isolated against a white background? I don't know. That That one, because of the way it did, maybe a little too busy for actual clip art. So what we can do is just kitchen with gingerbread kitchen. The images of. Let's remove the table and just do it with the Christmas florals. Now you can name the Christmas florals and not let it guess. So if you have the Christmas florals playbook, that would be a good way to pull in specific Christmas groupings of flowers. There we go. So now we have this little chipped enamelware. We have a cute little country Christmassy look. Very cute. And that one should, the background should remove really well for that one. Okay, let's go back to our rundown of what's included. So part 4 is all about the art styles. So we've got soft watercolor, you know, if you want to do storybook or painterly, whimsical, dark cottagecore. Let's just do a dark cottagecore. That's a little bit moodier, so it gives you different things. So dark vintage garden journal style is what we'll add, and we're going to add this here, and I'm going to add this to the very beginning. And y'all, I know that my prompts look very messy compared to probably what some people teach you to do and how to follow a specific formula. Okay, so this did darken things up. It darkened the colors up a little bit, but it didn't really give us a super dark cottagecore. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually try this in a different one of the generators and see what the interpretation is of it. Oh, that one changed it quite a bit, so we don't want to do that one. I mean, it's pretty, but probably not for what we were trying to achieve. So we're going to go with this one, and then we're going to dark cottage core vintage garden style. But I really like the way my images turn out, so I guess messy can work. Okay, here we go. So now this was a combination between the vintage and the garden and the darker cottagecore. So you've got the darker shaded in here. So I'm going to regenerate this time without it saying the vintage garden journal style. And we're just going to take that out and leave the interpretation to the dark cottagecore. And then you have to look at what color selections you have. So you may need to change the colors. Let's go back in. And let's see about if we can find just the right phrasing. Moody floral. And the dark's not going to necessarily yield where it's going to okay. There you go. So you can refine the colors. When we look at what we've actually got as far as colors down here, we've got gentle shadows like delicate brush. Okay, that's fine. Pale cream and sage palette. Let's remove that. Olive green. We can do the can. Those are fine. Let's do shadows without gentle in there and see what that comes up with. There we go. So then you start getting more of the darker cottagecore elements in there. You just have to, we were starting from something very light, so in order to, if you were starting all over, we could go back and we could just, like for instance, let's see. That's the whimsical. Thanks for watching the videos. We really appreciate you. Watching. Okay, so let's do this. Try this little sample. And we're gonna try it along with this one, which is basically just the see what it did. So if you start, you can get the darker look. I was working backwards, which allows you to give certain elements of the darkness to other images. But if you want to start with something, we can examine what this looks like. So it has basically dark cottagecore style, rainy glass, candlelight glow. So we can change this to from a window to table with stack of books and coffee cup. So wherever you start, you can then change out your subject. And now we have books. We have a darker cottage atmosphere that you can apply. How cool. So there's tons of things and directions that you can go in. There's also, let's see, we have an expanded cottagecore art styling phrasing bank, which goes in and shows you different versions. Like you have a, like for instance, well, I'll show you this little example. Okay, so we're going to go in and post this one. This will probably be the last example that I do as I walk you through the rest of the topics and how it looks inside. So here we have our mushroom. Now what we're going to do is go back, and we're going to change this part of it. I'm just going to do the whole thing. It's just harder for me to copy it. Okay. So we're going to go back and we're just going to change it out. Basically, it keeps the beginning as this part the same, but then it changes it towards the other style, the botanical style, so that you can see the progression. And I have some of these that are visually represented. So this is more of a botanical illustration, as you see. And I'm doing all these in the exact same generator inside Artistly. And then now we've got a seasonal version that we're going to do. And it shows you how changing those little elements will allow you to get a really broad variations. I just gooped, sorry. That's what happens when I try to talk and paste. Okay. So this will give you a lot of a broad canvas to work with, as far as when you get something locked in, you really like that and you want to change it out for different seasons. For instance, this one, we just changed seasonally. Let's look for in an autumn woodland garden and change that to a Christmas woodland garden with evergreen and Christmas florals. We don't want candlelight glow, cinnamon and mushroom brown palette. This would be berries, pine cones, pine trees, Christmas palette. Just because I don't want to go look it up. I'm lazy to go look that up. I'm just kind of adding something in there. But see, you can take that basic and then change it out for the season that you want. So we got a little bit of snow on there, the pine trees and all that. Okay. And this one actually, even though it didn't state it, it probably would come fairly clean. But you could get down into more detail as to what you wanted. That was just kind of a quick kind of thing. Okay, let's get back in here, back to 10. Okay, so the palette directions, you have, your holiday colors. You've got woodland, neutral, blue, which is like your china patterns, lavenders, your honeybee, your vintage rose, autumn, all the ones that you typically would use. And then you've got color phrasing, color pairing ideas, like how to group the different colors together, color formulas, and then part 6 is the motif expansion bank. So you've got objects, props, nature, animals, decorative details, florals and botanicals. You've got ivy, all kind of strawberry blossoms, the garden elements. You've got all of your greenhouses and birdhouses and garden gloves and phrasing to help you get those items. Kitchen and pantry items. You've got home and cozy living elements, animals and creatures, frogs, snails, squirrels, and mice. And then you've got frames, borders. And then you've got the expanded Cottagecore combination bank. These are like combinations that are phrased and put together. So you may put a watering can, daisies, and clay pots, or you may use a wooden trellis, vines, and a wall. And these are not meant to be used individually. However, in the event that you need just one single little item, then you may not have to add much to it other than your style elements, because you'll want your style to match whatever your clip art pack is. But you you get your style locked in, and then you just add these little groupings together. So just really quickly, you get a wooden trellis and vines and a cottage wall. So it gives you ideas on how to combine things. And let's see, that was part 7 is the scene and setting bank. So it gives you all sorts of like tea party scenes, bakery, and cottage. So that just kind of gives you a jump start on all of those. And then, of course, we have the expanded Cottagecore scene pairing. And then part 8 is Cottagecore character and personality direction. So that's all about the different little characters, domestic or garden what kind of activities they're doing, the clothing, like you've got a baker, a tea table, hostess, cozy reader, all these different characters. And then you've got their clothing and details, pose and activity ideas, which is cool. And then these are animal as character directions, so a little bit more prompting for that. Visual, okay, so the Cottagecore visual direction phrasing library is basically mood and atmosphere, lighting, composition, setting, texture, art style direction, color palettes, motifs, character styling, seasonal direction phrasing, full visual direction examples. So all of that kind of plays in together. And then, of course, I have a Cottagecore quick build guide, which gives you a little bit quicker. So you can flip to some of these sections and get some of the gist that's throughout, all kind of compartmentalized towards the end into longer phrase banks and everything for you to use. Well, thank you so much for watching. We're right at an hour, a little bit over an hour right now, and I don't want to go much longer. So thanks for watching. I hope you'll check out the new Cottagecore playbook. If that's an interest for you, I think it'll save you just literally hours and days of research and compiling all this stuff yourself. And it gives you a good way to go back and reference things. And the great thing is you don't have to have, any specific, it's not going to write them for you, but it's going to give you the basis so that your imagination and your direction can be easier realized than just starting by scratch or even just going in and asking for a prompt, which is, a lot of people just do that, but then it makes it harder when you go to try to personalize that prompt to make it truly your own original prompt by not having the correct phrases and still not knowing how to ask for it. And to be quite honest with you, even to ask ChatGPT or some of the other generators or chatbots or whatever to create for you a prompt can come up on difficulty if you're still not able to ask it what you want and direct how it's going to deliver it. Then you're basically stuck with taking and using what its vision for what you just asked it for. If you ask it for a flower, it's going to give you a prompt for a flower, but it may not be the color flower you want. It may not be in the setting that you want. So that's the major differentiation. So even if you are using the GPTs and stuff to help you with prompting, already knowing like the components that you want to use and how to ask for it will allow you to actually direct and your end results and the prompts that it actually put together from what you have in your mind's eye a little bit better. Anyway, so even if you're using some of those systems, I have lots of people that are still using the playbooks just because they're a great resource and reference material to help you guide your other tools. So anyway, thanks for watching. All of my links are down in the description. Be sure and check out the website because everything's kind of there. For all the playbooks are there. You can look at them. But I do not, as I've mentioned before, I don't accept any credit card, numbers or anything on the website. The website is just an easier in between for you to see a lot of the things that I have when I do videos. I cover a lot of material, and really my description area was looking so busy until I can send you there, and it can have, you can kind of look around and find what playbook works for you. And then I have links to Etsy and Gumroad. You can purchase on those two platforms, with the exception of if you're in the EU, you do have to purchase through Gumroad. Just a formality there. But anyway, have a great day. Thanks for watching and happy creating.